The Oklahoma Sooners, they are moving on the recruiting trail. Listen, they are creating momentum and they are on fire as they've just landed the number one running back in the country, Taylor Tatum. And we got to talk about it. We got to break it down. But I am joined today by Jay with Unfair Sports to talk about the commitment of Taylor Tatum because he was not here when Taylor Tatum originally made the announcement. So, Jay, before we dive into it, go ahead and tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, you know where to find me, Jay Smith, Unfair Sports. Just search me on YouTube as well as whatever podcast to download and listen to. Thanks, PG, for having me. I was out on vacation, and so y'all may have, if you've been on my channel, you may have seen my commitment video because I was prepared for it. But at the same time, yeah, just getting back into action.
Well, if you're prepared for it, that means you might have some insider knowledge, which means people should tune into you a little bit more because you might know what you're talking about when you're talking about recruits coming to Oklahoma. But Oklahoma, they land the number one running back in the country. He's a 4-star on every site, but he's a 5-star in the composite because how 247 does it, they do 32, I think it's 32 for 32
It's
draft
32
picks.
for the,
Yep,
for the draft picks in the
5-star.
NFL, right?
32 draft picks makes sense. I actually kind of like that reasoning. So Oklahoma lands a 5-star running back, DeMarco Murray. Just it seems like him and Emma Jones, they can do no wrong in these recruiting classes because they're like the only two coordinators that are really just sitting really pretty. So what was your initial reaction to Taylor Tatum committing to Oklahoma? And I know you found out a little bit earlier than other people, but what was that initial reaction to Taylor Tatum making that commitment?
So for those that are not initiated, that haven't been to my channel before, Colin Kennedy from 24/7 and Sooners Illustrated that came by about a week ago before I went out of town, and he had talked about the Tatum piece and how, the relationship between Taylor Tatum and Caden Durham was like the surprising piece that felt like it made the puzzle go together. And because of that, it was, he felt super confident. So he had his crystal ball in and he kept that bad boy in because he's like, no, this is most likely going to go down. And so when I saw that it officially happened, I was impressed more so that they were able to sell him on the idea of the things that he wanted to. It felt like a true sales system. So for anybody that's in the sales game, you understand that you can tell all the features and values that your product provides, but it means nothing if it doesn't resonate to the actual buyer. And in this situation, they were able to truly resonate with Taylor Tatum and, letting them know, hey, you can come here, play football and play baseball. And I think the bigger one was the conversation around how you're not going to be forced to run the ball 300 times in a season. DeMarco Murray, former NFL running back, has been through that. And he actually had multiple seasons where he rushed the ball over 300 times in the season. And guess what happened? He got cut, which is basically what we're seeing today in the NFL, where running backs are not lasting 10 and 12 years like they used to, unless you're like a freak of nature like Adrian Peterson or Derrick Henry. And so the conversation leaned right into, hey, we're not going to use you up. You can play multiple sports, and we've got a detailed plan on how you can play baseball and prepare for baseball while also playing football. Oh, yeah, let me also let you know, we've got 2 other running backs that our goal is to get on the staff, on the team with you, so that we really can shift the system to where you have about a 3-headed monster running the ball. We have one that can truly be the bell cow, while the other 2 speedsters can go out and do multiple things, from playing in the flats, playing in the slot. You can be leveraged in multiple ways and not feel like you're going to be used up before you go pro. So Tatum has the choice now. He can play baseball and try to go to the major leagues, or he can go to the NFL. And we know that DeMarco Murray can do a great job of getting him to either direction, him and Skip Johnson.
Yeah, and I know there's been some conversations that maybe Taylor Tatum and Caden Durham don't want to play with each other. And I just don't buy it for a second because of exactly what you talked about. They're not going to be one running back that takes the heavy load. They really want to try to diversify the portfolio and what kind of snaps these running backs take. And yeah, you might have one take 5 or 6 more snaps a game, but in reality, they're pretty much going to have pretty equal footing snaps. And one guy might get more another game depending on the matchup. And I think it's important to note too that I think a lot of these running backs are going to learn how to run routes. This staff is going to teach them, hey, we're going to dink and dunk to you. I think that's the Dak and dunk is what they originally called it with the Cowboys. They really initiated that with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. But I think they're going to start doing a little bit more of that, like making them run routes, giving it to them in the backfield a little bit, showing a little bit of their pass catching abilities, because then that expands what they can do in the NFL and makes them a little bit more valuable. And so I think Taylor Tatum is a big pickup because he can come to Oklahoma and he can focus on baseball for 1 or 2 years and kind of be hey, we have a running back that's injured, you can step up. But you look at this running back room for Oklahoma: a Gavin Sawchuk, a Javante Barnes, a Dalen Smothers, Khalil Hicks. I know this year you got Tawi Walker and Marcus Major. It's deep for Oklahoma. And so Taylor Tatum, a guy that really likes baseball, could come in, focus there with Skip Johnson a little bit, still be able to practice, still play football, have that scholarship, because I believe in baseball they don't get full scholarships in college. So football would allow him to have the full scholarship, I believe, if I'm correct. Somebody would have to fact check me on that one. But any other ending thoughts on Taylor Tatum before I talk about Caden Durham?
Yeah, no, I'm stoked at the fact that we won the number 1 running back in the country. I think that that's big. He's a composite 5-star. By the end of the cycle, he'll finish as a 5-star. Probably, I don't know if he'll be a 5-star plus, but I do expect him to be in the top 20 in most of the recruiting sites. I think the only problem for him is, and then in running backs this year and going forward, is that unless you're truly a generational changing talent at running back, you're probably not going to get ranked very high. It's the value of running backs have dropped in a massive way. Like the stock on it is low, and it sucks because running backs have substantial amount of value, and it's just that the rating systems are going off the way the NFL are treating them right now. And right now, the NFL is not paying any running backs, and so I do expect, though, that going forward, you'll see kind of a struggle in the ratings of running backs, but I think that they're still going to be very impactful, especially at the collegiate level. That's where they see the most impact anyway. I'm excited about Tatum because it's one of those players that really is going to change the game for the Sooners.
Yeah, and you talked about how the NFL treats him. You need an example. Look at my Kansas City Chiefs. Every time they go to the Super Bowl, there's like a different running back making an impact there. They got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then this past one, it was Pacheco. I think that's how you say it, Pacheco, which I really hope they keep him because he looks really good. Pick up for now, yeah, and then they'll get somebody else. But that's kind of what the NFL does, is they just cycle through them and they get young guys, people they can keep on rookie contracts, and I get why they do it, because they can. But talking about some of the other running backs that Oklahoma could be looking at, I say some of the other running backs because it's really just running back, and that's Caden Durham. Caden Durham has a commitment date of August 25th set. That is going to be for Duncanville's first game against South Oak Cliff at 5 o'clock. So I believe he's planning on announcing sometimes after. So he wants all the insiders and everybody to come to the game and then stay after for a commitment that he will likely make. And in all honesty, I hope is to Oklahoma. Now, currently Oklahoma in the recruiting rankings sits at number 16 behind Miami. We're expecting commitments, obviously, before Caden Durham. But if let's just say Oklahoma doesn't land anybody before then and they added Caden Durham, that would put them at, I think, about 20 commits. And they would have a 243.65 composite score. And assuming nobody else in the country landed commits, that would move them up to number 13 or number 14 on that list. So Caden Durham could additionally be another big piece for Oklahoma, a 4-star running back, a guy that's originally from here, Moore, Oklahoma, and seems to be good friends with David Stone, Caden Durham, and the likes of those guys. So what is your opinion on Caden Durham? Do you think Oklahoma can land the 4-star running back currently at Duncanville, Texas?
This is going to be a struggle for the Sooners, mainly because Durham's biggest thing is similar to Taylor Tatum. He's a 2-sport athlete. He's a track guy. And the competition right now is LSU, and LSU's got an elite track team. And so I'm curious to see if Oklahoma can find a way to convince him that running in the SEC with Oklahoma will still do good things for him, that they can still train him to be prepared for that competition, because that's where I think the struggle is going to come in the conversation. Now, granted, if I'm correct, LSU just picked up another track athlete within the last 24 hours as far as either a signing or a transfer. If that's the case, I saw something on Twitter. I'm going to have to find it real quick. But if that's the case, it might be a white flag waved by LSU that they're going to be out of the Durham race and we may end up winning his services. But there's no guarantee there. At the same time, bringing in a player like Caden Durham to run track as well as play football, LSU would do great with him. He'd be great at running back. Hell, Clyde Edwards-Helaire did get drafted from LSU. Darius Geis, and even though all the crazy crap that he did, he got drafted from LSU. Leonard Fournette, they've put out NFL caliber running backs from that school. So it's going to be just a choice of how much closer do you want to be at home and which track program do you feel like is the best. This one is going down similar to it did with Taylor Tatum. It's going to be the second sport that's going to matter the most than it is than our sport, which is football, because both of them have put out that position in the league on a regular basis. Like Oklahoma has been consistent with putting out NFL running backs. We've got a ton of NFL running backs that are starting today, and players recently drafted that are in the NFL now. And LSU as well does, and so does USC. So I can't fight and argue and say that, we're better because we both put them out there. The NFL is going to find you if you're good enough, and we know that we can develop you to get to that point. It's not like other positions. And so that's going to be the question: which team does he want to run track for? And I'm hoping he decides Oklahoma. I have a feeling Oklahoma has a good lean, especially with that Taylor Tatum relationship that he's built. Those three running backs, him, Zay Robinson, and Taylor Tatum, would be amazing. So I'm leaning Oklahoma, but I know LSU is definitely putting the full court press on it.
The only thing that concerns me with Caden Durham and LSU is he's got 3 teammates from Duncanville that LSU is certainly in the race for. Now, Alex January, the defensive lineman, committed to Texas, but let's say a Colin Simmons decides to commit to LSU, who I feel like LSU has been trending in that direction for a while. Steve Wiltfong and a couple other guys will tell you that it might be Texas on the come up for Colin Simmons, which let's just pray that that's not the case. But there's also Kadavian Dotson, the 3-star safety, who is potentially looking at LSU. I think that's an LSU SMU race at the moment. Let's just say those 3 guys end up at LSU. It's pretty hard, I feel like, for Caden Durham at that point to say no to his teammates and follow them out to LSU, but then also at the same time to say no to David Stone, Michael Patterson, and Xavier Robinson and do something different at Oklahoma that was a place that you grew up around, right? So it's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be, I feel like, a factor that a lot of people are not paying attention to is where does Colin Simmons go? Does Kadavian Dotson end up at LSU? And does Alex January look at flipping? Because you get 3 teammates there, it's kind of hard to tell them no because, well, you're kind of in the trenches with them every single day.
It's true. That's a good point.
Yep. So Taylor Tatum commits to Oklahoma. Caden Durham is upcoming August 25th. You guys will have to keep your eyes peeled for that one. Jay, before we end this one, go ahead and tell everybody again where they can find you at.
Hey, just find me on YouTube. Just search at Unfair Sports. You'll see my beautiful face on there. I appreciate you, PGs, having me as usual. We'll definitely be doing a lot more collaborations as we prepare for the season. Football's coming in like barely 40 days.
I'm excited. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and hit that like, hit the subscribe button. It tells me what you guys like and don't like. So, and also I'm moving. So I really would like to have you guys subscribe and be a part of the channel and kind of maybe help potentially fund this next house.